I'm going to start kicking off now. So hi guys, welcome. I hope you've all had a good day, and thank you for attending. So I'll start off by saying that this is a Common Futures Conversations webinar on youth civic engagement. My name is Tamana Tasnin, but you can call me Taz, and I am a member of the CFC community. I'm also the head of data at the Department for Health. And I'm quite lucky to be part of the CFC community and quite excited to be here. A bit more background on Common Futures Conversations. This is a Chatham House centenary project, and this is basically centered on bringing together young people from Africa and Europe to develop their knowledge of the most pressing current issues. The aim is to give young people a seat at the table in important policy discussions like the one we're about to have. And the CFC community conducts 2-month policy design cycles. This is where we engage with specific topics and experts to help develop our knowledge of our policy area before we begin to write our own policy solutions to address challenges and opportunities that we have identified. And today's event is basically the culmination of the community's engagement with artificial intelligence. I'd like to extend a special welcome to members of the CFC community, as well as Chatham House members who are joining us for this event, and welcome everyone else who is joining us today. And I thank you for your participation. Just a few housekeeping rules before we get started. First of all, the event is being recorded and is not being held under the Chatham House rule. As this event is a webinar, all attendees will be muted throughout, but you'll be able to use the Q&A function to ask a question. If you are selected to ask a question, you will be granted the ability to unmute yourself and ask your question. And I will try to get to as many questions as possible, but I apologize in advance if you are not selected. I will also briefly introduce our esteemed speaker before handing it over to her to make her opening remarks. Prudence Ngwenya is the Director of Women, Gender and Youth Directorate. Her main responsibilities include leading and providing strategic guidance on the AUC's mandate on youth development, whilst also providing strategic oversight on the implementation of programs within her directorate. She leads the African Union's agenda to unleash the potential of women and youth by striving for gender and youth parity across African countries, enabling development through strategic partnerships while fostering meaningful engagement with all of the stakeholders in the women, gender, and youth development landscape. This task involves maintaining a very robust, innovative, and results-oriented AUC Gender and Youth program aligned to key AU frameworks such as the Agenda 2063. So I'd like to welcome the director. Over to you.
Thank you very much, Tams, for that very comprehensive introduction. I was hearing some things about myself for the first time as well. But yeah, thank you for that. Let me just get straight onto it. My remarks basically seek to set the scene for the conversation today. And I will start by obviously greeting everybody and acknowledging everybody, including my colleagues who are also part of the people online who are on this webinar. And a special really welcome to young people who are joining us today. I'm really honored to speak on a topic that is both timely and crucial: youth civic engagement in Africa, which is of critical importance. And the topic itself is of critical importance as it directly impacts the future of the African continent and its role in the global arena or the global community. Now, by definition, civic engagement refers to the ways in which citizens participate in a community to improve conditions for themselves and to help shape the community, the future of the community. So also improving conditions for themselves and for others. And I want to acknowledge that there are various definitions of the term, and I'm sure we'll hear a little bit more from some of the distinguished speakers. But in the context of Africa, youth civic engagement is particularly important as young people are the greatest population, the greatest asset on the continent. And because of the statistics as well, I'm sure most of you know that in the world with more than 400 million young people between the ages of 15 to 35 years, at least it is projected that the African population makes up to 42% of the world's population, and it will be like that by 2030. Now, the demographic dividend in itself cannot be realized without the young people themselves actively engaging in their communities, defining priorities for their communities, and also participating and shaping the community. So that's just it in terms of definitions and working definitions. But of course, it's going to be exciting to hear what other distinguished speakers will speak from, will say about this. Let me take a moment to introduce the African Union Commission, specifically the directorate that I lead. And it makes sense that before I dive deeper into the different ways that the African Union, through the directorate, does in this space, that I also just provide a bit of context on what we do. The Women, Gender and Youth Directorate its mandate is to unleash the potential of women and young people by achieving gender and youth parity, ensuring an enabling environment and fostering meaningful engagement for both women and young people. Very interesting, because one of the things that we're finding out is that most young people on the continent are women, and most women are young people. And women and young people together constitute 85% at least of the population of the continent, which basically means the work of the directorate is very important because it leads on the majority of the people that the continent has. Our work aligns with Aspiration 6 of Agenda 2063, which is the blueprint for the development of the continent. The aspiration reads, an Africa whose development is people-driven. And remember, people-driven because we are saying 85% of the population is either you're a woman or you're a young person, or at least 70% you're a young person. So Aspiration 6 of Agenda 2063 specifically emphasizes that Africa will see development, or we will reach the Agenda 2063, which is the vision for the continent, in an Africa whose development is people-driven and relies on the potential of its people, specifically women and young people, and caring for the children. So that really just then centers the work that we do in the directorate, and everything that we do stems from it. Now, as alluded earlier, one of our priorities in the directorate is to ensure meaningful engagement of young people. And this is driven by this Agenda 2063, but also other policy documents of the African Union Commission, including the African Youth Charter, the 1 million by 2029. Specifically, Article 11 of the African Youth Charter says that every young person has the right to participate in all spheres of society, and that state parties will take certain measures to promote active youth participation in their communities. So this is very important for us in terms of even making sure that the young people themselves understand that already the AU has put up a policy framework, a normative framework that insists that they should play this role. So it's important that state parties create the spaces, but it's also important for young people that they also take up the spaces. Let me take an opportunity to speak to a few of the things that we do that directly speak to youth civic engagement. We have what we call the 1 Million Next Level Initiative. This is an initiative of His Excellency, the Chairperson, Musa Faki Mahamat. And this initiative is concerned with scaling up youth development and engagement strategies for impact. It seeks to reach at least 300 million young people in Africa with opportunities for promoting health and well-being, education, entrepreneurship, employment, and engagement. We call them the 4 E's and EDGE. E, employment, entrepreneurship, engagement, and education, and EDGE as health and well-being. Now, to achieve speed and scale and sustainability, this 1 million focuses on supporting countries where the scale and impact is, where the young people are, to develop and implement strategies that allow young people to be at the center of priorities and to accelerate, build resilient foundations and ecosystems for youth development and engagement programming. Let me speak to you about another initiative that we have at the African Union Commission called the African Union Youth Volunteer Corps Program. This is a flagship initiative that promotes youth civic engagement in the African Union. It was launched in 2010. It's a continental development program that recruits and works with young professionals and they come and work in all 55 member states of the African Union Commission, including the African Union Commission and the UN and other partners. It promotes shared values and Pan-Africanism among the upcoming generation, which is the young people, and engages these young people in the development of the continent. So in a very basic way, we recruit young people, they come and sit with us at the African Union Commission, we take some to the UN and other organizations, even member states, and they become part of the decision makers, they become part of the people who are doing things to change and develop the continent. We've deployed about 1,200 to various departments of the African Union Commission and even to member states. It really is one of the key avenues to deepen the status of young people and make them to be at the center of what we do in terms of developing the continent. I want to take some time to speak a little bit about the Africa Union Civic Tech Fund, because this is an interesting partnership that we have with the German government around, it's a 12-month initiative aimed at catalyzing innovative civic tech solutions that harness the power of technology to drive citizen-led transformative action in Africa. Now, what we do is annually we take out a fund and we give it to youth civic tech organizations on the continent. And the fund basically recognizes the potential that African youth have in shaping the continent's future. But the twist to it is that we want them to use technology to solve problems that their communities are facing. So it acknowledges the pivotal role of citizen participation in addressing governance and development challenges, and more importantly, using young people as a tool to foster innovation, promote transparency, enhance governance, and peaceful and secure communities. So we're using it to address governance and other developmental issues, and there needs to be an element of tech in it. The grant provided by the fund focuses on 6 thematic areas, including civic engagement, transparency, community-driven solutions, governance, innovation, youth empowerment, gender equality, and peace building. Successful recipients of the grant do not only receive financial support to scale their project, but also they receive capacity building and technical assistance to enhance their initiatives. I mean, this is one of the ways that we want to make sure that young people are at the center and they're actually leading change in their communities. Let me share a story of one of the recipients of the Civic Tech Fund from our program last year. Mpavu is a data-driven digital platform that allows women, men, and youth to track the campaign promises of elected leaders and assess their performance with communities in Malawi. The initiative disseminated surveys on voter education, post-election experiences. They published stories on voter-related topics, created cartoons on elections, and organized Twitter spaces and discussions. And they successfully registered 6,200 users and facilitated engagement between citizens and 500 councillors and members of parliament on development issues. The platform also collected data on public expenditure and collaboration with journalists and ward councillors, and shared findings of misuse of funds anonymously with media houses. These activities facilitated citizen engagement, promoted accountability, and enhanced civic participation in governance. We've also, following the successful inauguration edition, we supported 14 organizations from across various countries on the continent. But we've also recently just launched a second edition, which is testament to the work that we're doing to supporting initiatives and projects that strengthen citizen engagement through innovative tools and digital technologies. As we speak right now, for young people on the call on this webinar, the deadline for application for submissions was yesterday. So I'm hoping that most of you have actually requested and applied for this fund, and we will be managing it, and we'll be getting back to some of you around the outcome. Our sister organization, the African Union Development Agency, the AUDA NEPAD, also has a couple of activities, the Citizen Engagement Handbook that supports African Union and member states and civil society and stakeholders on conducting citizen engagement processes more constructively. And we can speak about that a bit later. But also they have a platform, the Citizen Engagement Platform, a tool that was designed to facilitate the participation of African citizens in policymaking processes, and we're working with them in rolling out this platform. In conclusion, youth civic engagement in Africa is a vital component of the continent's development and progress. By understanding the ways in which people participate in civic and political activities, we can create opportunities for them to contribute to their communities and shape the future of their nations. I encourage all of us to support and promote youth civic engagement in Africa and beyond. And over to you, Taz.
Thank you so much, Prudence. That was very insightful. And it was a good way to start off our session. I'd like to now invite the members of the Common Futures Conversations community to present their policy ideas on youth civic engagement. These solutions were written in response to the prompt, how can we increase youth civic engagement in the year of elections? The solutions that you will hear were the proposals that received the most votes from the Common Futures Conversations community. I'd like to invite each community member to pitch their proposal for about 5 minutes before turning to our expert, Director Prudence, to provide some brief feedback. First up, we're going to hear from JC Ocampo. JC is a CFC member from Ecuador who is living in France. JC will be presenting his idea on early political participation labs. Over to you, JC.
Thank you, Taz. Thank you, Director Prudence. Let me share my screen. Good. Hi, again, I'm JC. I'm very happy to be here with you all. And let me start with a personal story, actually. When I was a kid, I was very clumsy with my hands and extremely forgetful. I had such a hard time learning table manners, and I gave my mom a lot of extra work for it. But I realized that for adults, basic table manners seem natural. So one day I told my mom, you know what, no worries, I'll learn when I'm an adult. And like any Latina mom, she answered with a proverb, and she said, I'm teaching you now that you're a kid so that I don't have to punish you when you're an adult. Years later, I learned that my mom was unknowingly paraphrasing Pythagoras. And let me tell you why they were both right and what that has to do with youth civic engagement. Just like table manners, civic engagement isn't something that we're naturally good at. For example, we don't just turn 18 and know how to be an active, informed voter. So this year, millions of 18 years old around the world are going to vote for the first time. How, where, and when did they learn to participate in a democracy? Table manners, swimming, riding a bike, whatever example you can think of, we don't learn these things by studying the theory behind it, reading books or listening to verbal explanations or seeing someone else doing it. We learn at the table, in the sea, on the bike. There's no reason to think that civic engagement is any different. We truly learn by doing. Our seniors, parents, siblings, teachers, they created safe spaces and positive opportunities for us to learn through experience, through real experience. And that's what EPPLs are. The idea behind early political participation labs start with a willing local government with an issue at hand and a group of children who come as they are. I'll give you an example based in Sheffield, a lovely city in South Yorkshire, and children age, say, 14. The EPPL first frames an issue. The Sheffield City Council wants to promote children's physical activity. Then, children participate in a series of intentionally planned mechanisms, from town hall meetings to referendums, whatever mechanism you can think of, that is what we're trying to achieve. That is what we're trying to learn. And the idea is that through these mechanisms, they get to democratically reach a solution from a set of pre-approved possibilities. Throughout the experience, they learn firsthand how these mechanisms work and how to effectively use them to improve your community. And this is key, because real civic participation should lead to real community improvements. This isn't a mock-up. Children and adolescents can rightfully influence and politically participate in their communities. EPPLs are standalone, are age-appropriate, and are contextually relevant. The idea would be that these EPPLs, as opportunities come and go, they spring up throughout the year, and for children from different ages, say 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, throughout all of these different life stages, children are capable of discussing, they're capable of voting, they're capable of even protesting at some point. So they get to learn all of these different ways in which they can participate like within their community, and about the improvements that they want to see in their communities, within their neighborhoods, the things that they want to use, that they need. And here are some of the pros that I believe that EPPLs can achieve. First, they are adaptable to local realities. The idea is that if your local government doesn't really do town hall meetings, no need for that. Then switch to referendums, teach children what they would need to stay, live, and participate healthily in the political life of their own community. They're easy to implement. The truth is, this is just a framework. It is very flexible to what each community would like to achieve, what children are, what issues at hand a community needs to solve, and which of those are appropriate for children to tackle, children and adolescents. It is resource efficient. Truth is, you need administration, you need organization, and you need a local willing government, which is okay with ceding part of this decision-making power to their children, their own community. Lastly, it creates lifelong bonds to the community. At the end of the day, just like we learn to ride a bike, we do it little by little, we do it gradually, and then your parents, if they're teaching you, your teacher, whatever, they let go. They let go, and then they let you do your own thing. This is kind of similar. We create lifelong bonds to the community and to the political participation within that community. Here are some of the cons, and I'm sure that we can think of more of them, but it is vulnerable to low adoption. It is definitely not a short-term answer, and that is because I personally believe that short-term solutions are usually superficial. The truth is that youth civic engagement is something that we have to work on through like long-term solutions so that it stays solved. And lastly, it is dependent on continuity. The idea is that throughout the years, you get EPPLs that target different issues for different age children and adolescents. Now, for me, it's very important to hear what you all think and the questions that arises. I already got some amazing feedback. For example, I remember Ruth had such a good one, which is, we can definitely throw in some gamification or in some way adapt the EPPL so that they are they align better with youth interest. So I want to leave it right here. One more time, my name is JC. Thank you so much for listening. And if you were wondering, my table manners are now much better. So thank you.
Thank you so much, JC. That was very interesting and a very well presented proposal. I'd like to invite Director Prudence if you have any feedback or comments or questions before moving on to Ruth.
Thank you very much, Juan. And I really listened keenly to your presentation. And just to start off to say that definitely early political participation is important. And it reminds me of an adage that we've developed in the work that we do: children today, youth tomorrow. The idea is that don't wait for people to be adults before you start engaging in things. And we all know that the formative stages of life are important. And I agree with you definitely. I think doing some kind of work as early as possible is important, and I agree with your initiative. However, and I think it speaks to some of the pros and cons that you speak to, and I kept on thinking about contextualization, because the reason why we also run into some issues, for example, with sexuality education, is that we need to make sure that we curate and contextualize information for children or for the people that you are aiming to reach at an early stage, and make sure that then it's curated to grow with them. Because I can imagine dealing with the same information with an 8-year-old and an 18-year-old, definitely the information would have to be different, and you have to be creative around that. Maybe use cartoons or use whatever is easy for the young people. And I think as you were talking, I was even saying to myself, this would be an interesting initiative with the AU Civic Tech Fund, actually, to test, because that's exactly what the fund seeks to do, to test. And I wanted to take a minute to also speak a bit about the importance of testing innovation. And I think it's really up to young people like yourselves to come up with some innovative ideas, and then we create an environment that allows us to test. And even putting up portfolios to say, this is a portfolio that is safe to fail, but we want to guard it, we want to develop it, we want to nurture it and see if it could lead to anything. But definitely, I think what you have in there is something that could be scaled and that could be used in other settings as well. Definitely, it would work in the context of the continent, and it would be interesting to actually see that being resourced and working and being adaptable on the continent. Thank you.
Thank you, Director Prudence. I am very happy that you agree that children have that capacity to participate politically in their community. I think you are definitely right. Age appropriateness is something very important for this solution and for any solution that intends to bring in children. And I also want to just reinforce that one last point, which is children can do a lot of things. Children and adolescents, they're amazing, they're brilliant, they're better than us in so many ways. So I'm very happy that you also see them as that opportunity, and that they are in that critical window when, if we get to engage them politically, they'll stay engaged. They'll just feel like policy, they'll feel like their local government is their place. That's what we've been doing since we were kids. We're still here, and we're still engaged with our communities. So thank you so much for that comment.
Thank you, Director Prudence, and thank you, JC. Next, I'd like to introduce Ruth George Lowakateri, a CFC member from Tanzania, who will be discussing Youth Civic Innovation Labs. Ruth, I'd like to invite you to the stage.
Thank you, Taz. Good evening, good afternoon, and good morning, everyone, depending on where in the world you are connecting from. Thank you for joining the session. As mentioned, my name is Ruth, and I'm proudly Tanzanian. It's a privilege I don't take for granted to have the opportunity to present my policy solution to you all today. I must add, it is also a great honor to be joined by and heard by Director Prudence Ngwenya. Thank you for being here. As we stand at a crucial juncture in our global political landscape, with over 50 states facing elections this year alone, the imperative for genuine, inclusive civic engagement has never been more urgent. Yet, despite our vast potential, we as young people around the world often find ourselves on the outskirts of the political processes that shape our lives. We face barriers such as limited access to information, few opportunities for meaningful participation, and quite frankly, a sheer lack of trust in political processes. With this context in mind, I am excited to introduce a transformative initiative to dismantle these barriers, the Next Gen Civic Innovation Labs. Inspired by the brilliant Common Futures Conversations platform by Chatham House, which has made it possible for us to convene here today, this initiative aims to establish a series of interconnected innovation labs across continents. These labs will not only educate and engage, but also elevate the ideas and innovations of young people into actionable policies and tangible community benefits through a structured, supportive framework that incorporates cutting-edge technology and cross-disciplinary collaboration. Now, let's dive into the core components of the labs. Firstly, integrated learning and development platforms will be at the heart of our approach. Our learning modules will utilize digital tools to provide education on civic responsibilities, digital literacy, critical thinking, and effective communication. The curriculum will be designed in collaboration with academic experts and updated annually to reflect emerging civic issues. Furthermore, the labs will use advanced VR and AR technologies to create realistic simulations of societal challenges, such as electoral processes, environmental crises, and urban planning scenarios, allowing participants to engage in problem solving in controlled yet complex, realistic environments. Secondly, cross-disciplinary mentorship and collaboration. Our labs will provide a supportive environment where mentors from diverse sectors such as tech, politics, science, and business guide participants, ensuring they receive a well-rounded perspective on civic engagement. Furthermore, our biannual international collaboration challenges will invite teams from different labs to solve global problems together, to encourage a rich exchange of ideas and foster a strong sense of global community. Thirdly, innovation grants and entrepreneurial support. We recognize the importance of both ideation and execution, so we are committed to nurturing ideas throughout their entire life cycle, from conception to implementation. We'll establish a structured system of innovation grants to support projects at various stages with clear criteria for progression based on project milestones and impact metrics. Successful projects will be connected with an established network of tech incubators, accelerators, and venture capitalists, helping turn civic project ideas into sustainable, scalable businesses. And next, government and policy integration. Our lab to legislation framework will ensure that successful innovations have a direct pathway to transition into local, national, and even international policy initiatives. Additionally, regularly scheduled public hearings and policy roundtables, such as these, will provide a direct interaction between our participants and policymakers to ensure that the youth voice is heard and has a meaningful, lasting impact. Lastly, a global youth civic conclave. In line with our commitment to fostering sustained engagement, this annual event, complemented by a year-round digital platform, will celebrate the successes of our participants, encourage networking and feature hackathons, innovation sprints, and thematic workshops addressing current global issues. To implement this ambitious plan, we will begin with a pilot phase focusing on setting up the first lab, developing the curriculum, and establishing a mentorship panel. This phase will allow us to refine our approach based on real-world feedback and ensure that as we expand, each lab is effectively tailored to meet the specific needs of its community. However, we also recognize the challenges ahead. Resource allocation and stakeholder resistance could pose potential hurdles. To address these, we will implement a staged funding strategy with clear milestones for releasing funds contingent on demonstrated successes and outcomes. Additionally, we will establish regular forums and feedback mechanisms to engage community leaders, potential critics, and other stakeholders from the outset to further ensure our goals align with the communities we aim to serve. We will measure our impact through detailed quantitative and qualitative metrics, from participant engagement to policy influence. This rigorous evaluation will help us refine our approach and scale our impact effectively. I'm hopeful the Next Gen Civic Innovation Labs will serve as a potent tool to dismantle the barriers that restrict youth civic engagement and build a world that is as inclusive as it is innovative. Thank you all for your attention.
Thank you so much, Ruth. That was very engaging. I'd like to invite Director Prudence to provide any feedback or comments.
Really interesting, Ruth, actually. I was chatting to one of my colleagues who's on the call to say this is exactly the AU Civic Tech Fund. And I think as you were just speaking about it, you even gave us much more to actually think about, because I really liked the 360-degree approach to it, because that was going to be one of my comments to this, but I'll come back to that. Now, just to acknowledge and also give feedback that your policy proposal obviously will tick quite a number of boxes. It will promote citizen engagement. It will drive digital innovation in democratic governance, in development spaces, and also really just support young people's engagement and strengthen really their citizen engagement. But I also really like that you are thinking innovation and using innovation tools and digital technologies. So that's also really where the future is, because we know how technology, AI is here, and all of these things are here for us to use and make sure that it allows us to take the work that we do to the second level. Now, when you started, I acknowledged and I took note of the fact that your policy direction really looks into addressing issues around opening up spaces for young people, because the idea is that young people are disenfranchised and marginalized. Therefore, we're opening up spaces for them to be able to do things. And as you're speaking, in my mind, I was saying that I hope you're also acknowledging that opening up spaces is very good and we should do it definitely. But as we open up spaces, we should also understand that there's a domino effect with other things. For example, but I think you also addressed it in your proposal. I just want you to think about it in a much more strategic, not strategic, deliberate way, to say, I will open up spaces. But when I open up spaces, what happens when the spaces are open and young people are ready to take up? Oh, so there's a policy direction that allows young people to participate in the spaces. But are you thinking about the fact that young people have the capacity themselves to take advantage of these spaces that you're opening? But I like, because you spoke about capacity building and running innovation, this and that. So be deliberate about the fact that opening up spaces is one thing, but once you open up spaces, you need to think about creating or building the capacity of the young people to be able to take up the spaces. Because otherwise you open up spaces, it's going to be for young people, but no young person will have the capacity to actually take advantage of the space. But I also heard you mention something really interesting, because for me, it's 4 things. It's opening up spaces, but when you open up spaces, make sure that the people have got the capacity to take up the spaces. So you need to do something around capacity building, but it's also something around health and well-being, because we're on the continent, you're in Tanzania. So in Africa, you need to also think about the health and well-being of the person. If I'm a young person and you open up this innovation lab, however much interesting it is, if my mental health is on the gutter, if my I'm in a place where peace and security is an issue, guns are blazing all around me, I'm not going to be able to take advantage of that. So you need to think deliberately around it and say, I'll either signpost, or these are some of the things that I'll make sure that these young people have got access to. Because the reality is that with guns blazing outside my door, I may not be able to take, because I've got much bigger things. I'm trying to be alive. I'm trying to wake up and be alive. So I might not be able to take advantage of some of those things. This is the same thing around mental health and things like that. So basically health and well-being. The last thing is voices. And I like the fact that you mentioned it, because you spoke about setting up sessions with policymakers, duty bearers, and for their voices, because voices is also important, nothing for them without them. So you make sure that it's not just you there doing things for them and they're not doing anything for themselves. But yeah, I think, so it's that domino effect, and also really to say that if you do this and you do it well, I like the fact that you're thinking about stress testing and proof of concept, and also putting feedback loops, because that is what is going to help you grow your project. Thank you very much, but this was really good and quite relatable.
Thank you so much for your feedback, Director Prudence. I've written all of that down. I did hear of the AUC Tech Fund. However, the idea is very much just an idea for now. And I don't have an organization yet to back it and to then have been able to apply. But I'm excited to take advantage of that opportunity when the time is right. Thank you so much. I will think about capacity building and health and well-being to further develop this idea. Thank you so much.
Yeah, maybe just the last thing from me is to also say that it had many components. So next time somebody's thinking of something like this, think about growing it from starting with 2 or 3 components and then growing into other components, because otherwise this looks like something that could be run by the AU and probably still fail, even though it's a big organization. Thank you.
Thank
So
you, Dr.
incremental approach.
Oh, thank you, Dr. Prudence, for that feedback. And thank you, Ruth, for the delivery of that very wonderful proposal. I'd like to introduce our last but not least candidate from the CFC community, Saeed Mohammed Lawan, who will present his policy ideas related to youth civic engagement beyond the ballot box.
Thank you. My name is Saeed Mohammed Lawan from Nigeria. The idea that I guess to create positive change in the world, and there are so many ways. One is they can get involved beyond just voting in election, and this idea started from my community when I noticed that whenever a cycle of election comes up, young people line up massively to choose and vote for their next leaders. To vote and choose for their next leaders. But after the election, like they go back to their communities and complain, when things did not go the right way. And that is why I come up with this idea beyond the ballot box. And beyond the ballot box will bring young people together under one umbrella, and it shows them the effective strategy that they can employ to organize themselves in communities. Because in Nigeria we have case stories organizing where it become things like NSAS protests that spark change and completely in Nigeria. And also these beyond the ballot box will also focus on because many youth especially in Nigeria and Africa are not equipped and they do not have enough resources to. So this beyond the ballot box will show them a way and get resources that they can have access to resources that will change their life and also hold their life accountable. And also digital activism. And digital activism is also a digital campaign that for example, in Nigeria, we have allow young people in their to track government implemented project. Because in my community, like, we have so many uncompleted projects started by government, and young people are not questioning that. They are not raising their voices. They are not asking questions. So your ballot box will give young people the platform to express their voice and to hold their leaders accountable. One of the challenges is this: that after election, young people go back to their homes and start and begins to complain about things when it goes wrong. But now, when they get involved, when they get involved, they will be able to shape their narrative, to shape the narratives of the election. They will be able to hold their leaders accountable and also inspire young ones for change. Thank you.
Thank you, Saeed. I just want to confirm that was that the end of your proposal, just because the connection is a little bit poor.
Hello, pardon?
Is that the end of your proposal?
Yes.
Thank you so much. I was just checking, just because my connection's a little bit poor. Thank you so much. Director Prudence, if you'd like to have any thoughts or words for Saeed?
Thank you very much, Saeed, for those thoughts. I think your internet really let you down. So maybe just to start a little bit different on this, the lesson I'm picking up from here, Saeed, is that probably because We are not responsible for the infrastructure in the countries where we are. Maybe next time, if I'm allowed an elevator pitch, I'll also bring a PowerPoint presentation so that even as I talk, there's something on the screen that people can have a look at and begin to, you know, just so that I'm just thinking as that is happening. But yes, your internet did let you down. But from just reading, I have the opportunity to get your presentation prior to this. I think you're speaking to developing a platform. And I don't think we can either get to a place where we'll say we have enough platforms for youth engagement. So it's first of all, it's great that you're a young person and you're already thinking about solving an issue, solving a problem where you see there's a problem and you're coming up with a solution to it. I mean, the African Youth Charter, Article 26A specifically says young people are custodians of their own development. So you're already doing that in terms of leading in that space. But definitely a platform for young people that has got three elements. It organizes the young people, very important, and it's great that it's young people. It's for young people by a young person, but also a platform that deals with advocacy as well, organizes them, but not just organize for organizing's sake, organizing them so that they can do advocacy around a particular matter that is an issue for them, and also the use of digital tools. And I think I had the same comment to Ruth that if you do anything with young people and start thinking digital or innovation, it will fly, because that's how this generation wants to work. I just feel that you probably need to give it a bit more thought in terms of unpacking the how part of it, like organizing them, but how, and what is their context, and what kind of organizing would work in the different contexts where they are, and advocacy, again, how. There's so many ways of killing a cat, but how are you going to kill this particular cat, and as well as some examples of your digital advocacy tools that you want to use. Thank you.
Thank you, Director Prudence. Saeed, any last words from you?
Thank you so much, Director, for the feedback. Yes, I have a very, very bad network. I wish I could get access to a better connection, but my community suffer from this a lot. Thank you very much, Doctor.
Thank you, Saeed. Thank you, Dr. Prudence. I'd like to begin the Q&A section of this evening, and I'd invite you all, hosts, panelists, audience, to feel free to pop in any questions in the Q&A box that you'd like me to speak out on. You can also use the chat function, but of course, if the Q&A function is a bit better, please do use that. And feel free to ask any of the questions to Director Prudence or to any of the panelists you had today. I've got a few questions that are in the box already. They were quite early on in the session to Director Prudence. I'd like to call on Marshall Atse. I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing that correctly, but if I am, I'm really sorry. You had quite a few questions. If I could just get Whitney to unmute Marshall, if he's still in the call.
I think he's dropped off. But we do have a hand up from Dinka Amorum.
Oh, sorry, I didn't see that hand. Yes, Dinka, would you like to unmute yourself?
Hello? Did you listen to me?
Yeah, we can hear you.
No, my question is to Prudence, but she's not there.
No, Director Prudence is on the call still.
Okay. Prudence, how are you? It's always pleasure to meet you. I'm from Dinka. I'm from South Tome and Principe, African Union member state, Portuguese speaking country, located here in Central Africa. My question to you is to know what is the other activity African Union division is doing so far in terms of the civic engagement, or if you have more program, more, I don't know, fund where the youth organization here in Sao Tome or other African Portuguese speaking country or the African Union member states can apply in order to develop the civic engagement initiative. Thank you so much. And also congratulations to the Chatham House for this amazing webinar on civic engagement, youth civic engagement. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Dinka. Director Prudence, have you got any words for Dinka?
Yes, thank you very much for that question, Dinka. Actually, quite all the programs I spoke to during the speech, they directly address youth civic engagement. I spoke about the 1 million next level. I spoke about the AU Civic Tech Fund, which is out there. And by the way, when we do, so the most important thing would be to ask that people here who are interested in opportunities at the African Union Commission should follow us on our social media handles, because even this Civic Tech Fund, the call came out there and young people applied. And I think there was even a Twitter a space that was created so that people can learn a bit more about it. And we try as much as possible to make sure that this is done in all the AU languages, including Portuguese. The AUIVC program, the young professionals come to the African Union. And unfortunately, I think Sao Tome and Principe is the only member state that did not have a young person apply to the initiative. So definitely there's something that we're not doing right there in terms of reaching all countries. But we also have a youth envoy of the chairperson, and she's doing quite a lot in youth engagement across the continent. And also, if you can look her up on social media. I know somebody has just said, please share handles on the things that you're doing. My colleagues are on the call. I'm going to ask Alette to type on the charts the handles for both the youth envoy and the work that we do in the directorate, so that you can follow and you can also get yourself involved. Thank you.
Thank you, Prudence. And yeah, I would very much recommend keep an eye on the chat, because Prudence has said her colleagues are on the call and they will be posting the handles in the chat. The next question we've got from Vikas Chari to Director Prudence. What are the main barriers to civic participation that are unique to Africa, which could be extrapolated across the developing world?
Can you say, I'm trying to look for the question. So what are some of, is it challenges unique to Africa?
Yes, so what are the main barriers to civic participation that are unique to Africa, which could then be extrapolated across the developing world?
I think when you speak about Africa, definitely we'll even start culturally. You're a young person, you don't get to speak, you don't get to make decisions. I mean, also the way just culturally we're organized is that young people don't have a voice. So for me, that's one of the biggest barriers, but it's changing. I think it was worse in my parents' time, maybe a bit worse during my parents' time, and it was much better in my time. I don't ever think I woke up one day and felt like there was a barrier for me to do whatever I wanted to do. But then again, it's different contexts and religion. So not just culture, religion as well, and things like that. But I think for me as well, it's those other things I mentioned in the domino effect. So that's the challenge. We create parity, we create spaces, but we don't think about the fact that there's quite a few other things that can be barriers for people to take up the spaces. Again, you can create jobs, and I'll make an example at the African Union Commission. There's a decision to say that we're driving gender parity and youth parity in jobs. So jobs, entry-level jobs are reserved for young people. I sit in the committees where we do this recruitment. Young people don't even apply. even though these jobs are reserved for them. Because again, the requirement is that you must have A, B, C, D, E, which is the capacity building. So we need to make sure that we don't just make policy direction and open up spaces. We need to make sure that the young people are capacitated to take up the spaces. So in as much as it's good to create the spaces, we need to also fast track response or some efforts to make sure that we build their capacity. And again, it's also the things around health and well-being, the peace and security, mental health, a lot of other things that could stop me because of my well-being from participating and can act as a barrier to some of these things. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Director. Thank you, Director Prudence. Unfortunately, we have run out of time, so we won't be able to answer any more questions, but Whitney has kindly put her email in the chat, and if you have any questions, you can email Whitney and she will get back to you soon. I'd just like to say thank you so much to the panelists for all the hard work on your proposals and delivering that to a wide audience today, and the confidence and the flair that you guys have presented. That was amazing. And thank you, Director Prudence, for giving up your time to be here today. And thank you to all of you, the audience, who have kindly tuned in for the hour and has, given up a bit more of your time because we ran over. I really want to thank you guys, and hopefully see you all soon. And thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone. And thank you for your time and really interesting conversations. And again, I think for me, follow us on social media. We have a lot of these conversations on Twitter, or on X. We do space, and we do quite a lot of other conversations. And sometimes we come to your own communities, and it'll be great to come together and have you be part of the activities that we do. Thank you.